It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Monday. Gary, how are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Well, this is what I got out of this weekend.
Yeah?
There's a lot of things happening, but this is what I got out of this weekend.
All right.
Are you ready?
Okay.
Here we go. All right.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden.
I'm in constant contact with her. She's aware we're singing from the same song sheet. She helped pass all the laws that are being employed now. She was a major player in everything we've done, including passage of legislation which we were told we could never pass. And so she's been, and her staff is interlocked with mine in terms of all the things we're doing.
Well, they seem to be in lockstep with each other.
Who was the reporter who asked that? I just wonder who the reporter was. I don't know who the reporter was.
I always assume it's Pete.
because it's almost like I listened to the reporter. It's not Ducey.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking, who asked that? Because it was almost like it was a complete setup by the reporter too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything else that happened over the weekend politically, whether it was Walz on Fox News Sunday or the 60 Minutes interview, which, excerpts of it came out, which is supposed to be on, I think, tonight. To me, the only thing that mattered, that was brutal. Absolutely brutal. Here she is trying to separate herself, and the media, by the way, completely, even though they interrupted it, they interrupted her rally. They just didn't talk about that over the weekend at all.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Did it quiet Mark Cuban down a little bit?
Yeah. Didn't hear much from him over the weekend. Maybe I missed it.
I mean, there was an emphasis. An absolute emphasis to throw her under the bus.
I've been thinking all along this was Biden's play. The moment Nancy called him up and, like the Godfather, hey, it's time you step down. All the families had a meeting, Joe. Your time is up. Come on, get out. I think he endorsed her in that letter, or whoever wrote the letter for him. And I think he did that. I don't think he told even Nancy he was going to endorse her. And then, because what he heard from Nancy, what he heard from his party when they pushed him out was, you suck as president. All right, great. I'll endorse my vice president that I know you guys don't want. And why does he know that? Because you're asking yourself, well, Eric, this sounds kind of crazy. Have you been paying attention? Because you're right, it does, but no crazier, in fact, not near as crazy as everything, the way that it went down. And why would Joe Biden believe that? Why would he? Because he didn't believe in her either. That they actually don't see eye to eye. That word has been going on and making the rounds inside the Beltway from almost day one, from almost January of 2021, that they really don't see eye to eye. And remember when he shoved the border over to her? Hey, you go handle it. I'm not. Well, it wasn't because he felt she was competent. He was passing the buck. He just wanted his time to parade around and smile and tell everybody, see, I told everybody I could beat Trump. I beat Trump. He wanted to do victory laps. That's who Joe Biden is. When his party forced him out, I'm convinced, I'd put $1 on this bet all day long, that he endorsed her in that letter. And then from that point on, it was going to be, I'm going to be as vocal as I can to make sure everybody knows we are joined at the political hip.
I will admit, CNN covered it, though. Harris weighs more breaks with Biden as he keeps injecting himself into the campaign.
Exactly. No, that's exactly part of my entire theory. My entire theory includes Joe going, well, they don't want me out there. They separated them by 72 hours at the convention. He was Monday night. She didn't even walk into the building probably until 5 minutes before going on Thursday night, because she was rehearsing for days and days and days, but also because they didn't want to be close to each other, and her campaign and the Democrats didn't want them connected at all. They wanted Joe Biden to go to the beach.
This is great. Top aides to Kamala Harris are heading into the final month of the 2024, this came out yesterday, presidential race, still wrestling with how much distance she can credibly claim from Joe Biden as she looks for more ways to weave in breaks with him on the campaign trail. But she keeps getting pulled back to his side for official business at the White House, and he keeps injecting himself into the conversation.
That's another Godfather reference right there. Just when I was out, they pulled me back in.
Harris aides are looking at rolling out new plans and promises for what Harris would do as president, in part to directly demonstrate notable differences like her recent more blunt speeches about abortion rights and tackling the southern border. The challenge of having so little time in such a short race, one advisor to the vice president told CNN, is you're trying to reach undecided low-intensity voters. How do you actually communicate differences from Biden? Running as an extension of the president is not a strong position, Harris aides know, while asserting what she stands for. Neither aides in the Harris campaign nor the White House would commit to another joint campaign event between now and the election. Oh, my gosh. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but what happened on Friday was just, in case you didn't know about it, she was just getting into a campaign event, and that's when the White House, that's when Karine Jean-Pierre was speaking to the White House press corps, and Biden just walks in.
Yeah,
First
just
time he's
walks
done
in.
that, what, in a couple year, over a year, whatever, just walks in, blows everybody away, takes the entire, coverage of Harris is gone, and then, as we just played the comment that he made there, he basically says, no, she stands. Every single thing that I did, she was instrumental.
He's up there taking the pulpit. And by the way, the other times that he walked in to the White House briefing room, he thought it was the bathroom. He's screaming, where are the urinals? This was deliberate, and I'm telling you my theory. I'm telling you I'm right about this. This is the wrecking ball that Joe Biden is. Never underestimate the ability of Joe Biden to F things up. That was a quote from Barack Obama.
Internal Harris campaign research on the September presidential debate found that one of the most popular moments for the vice president was when she said, clearly, I am not Joe Biden. On Friday, after weeks of some junior White House aides complaining to colleagues about having to run statements and other ideas by the campaign, Biden took a different approach. Quote, she was a major player in everything we've done, including the passage of legislation, which we were told we could never pass. She's been and her staff is interlocked with mine in terms of all things we're doing. Aides said Biden's decision to show up in the White House briefing room for the first time ever as president was aimed at breaking through to Americans a sense of a good week in holding off more violence in the Middle East, ending the dock workers' strike, and one strong monthly jobs report. He revealed in laughing dismissively at now devoted Trump backer Senator Marco Rubio, calling the job numbers fakes. Biden aides did not coordinate the surprise appearance with the Harris campaign, though they did provide a heads up minutes before. Harris aides did not find the appearance helpful.
I bet they didn't. I bet they didn't. Think about this. I'm waiting for Joe to come out. Who knows? He might be a daily appearance there at the White House briefing. I'm waiting for Joe Biden to come out and say, y'all remember all the times I mistakenly called her president? That's because she was doing the president's work. She's been in charge all along. All of this is her fault.
It was akin to how they felt on Thursday when Biden edged himself into the news again by walking over to reporters so he could praise former Representative Liz Cheney's speech endorsing Harris. Wow.
Yeah.
The Trump campaign and other high-profile Republicans, meanwhile, immediately pounced on how Biden effectively bigfooted Harris with his briefing room appearance, walking out 2 minutes after she took the stage at a campaign event in Detroit. In mid-September, the Democratic Research and Polling Initiative Blueprint conducted a national poll testing a long series of potential statements Harris could make about herself and Biden. Those that performed best, the polling found, were those that displayed a clear break between her and Biden, while those that performed worse were those that were portrayed a future Harris administration as building on the accomplishments of the Biden era. Any mention of Biden, the polling found, led to less support, even if the position it had Harris taking was the same. Those numbers have made their way around Harris aides. She hasn't been afraid to say in places where she's different from him. He's got a problem with that. He's got no problem with that, said a former White House Mitch Landrieu, former Biden White House infrastructure coordinator, who was a co-chair of Biden and now has the same role for Harris. They've tried to hang Joe Biden around her negatively, but that has not worked because she is not him. That's a lie. She is clearly younger than him, and she is clearly female. Because she is not him.
She's not the same person. We can actually prove it with science. We'll circle back around to that later, and we'll provide the scientific proof that they're not the same person.
Oh, that's a CNN article.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow. See, because she's female. What? Because she's younger. Stop talking. You're making it worse. You're drawing more attention to it. You want to make something go viral, be stupid like that.
Well, clearly, and we had talked about this last week with they're going to start making more appearances. The only reason they're making more appearances is one reason and one reason only. The polls show they're down.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
Their internal polling shows they're down.
Right.
There is no other reason.
I've been thinking this. It was clear by the way they were behaving that after the convention and then after the debate, they weren't seeing the bump that they thought they were going to get. They weren't seeing momentum. But it wasn't just the campaign. It was their liberal activist surrogates in the media. You can see how desperate and angry they are right now. And I really believe if we were to sit down and have a chat about the psychology of it all, that they're angry at her just as much as they're angry at conservatives right now because they see her as a losing pick. They see this, and maybe they know what happened. Maybe they know that my theory is true, and they're angry at Biden as well for making all this go the way it went. They have buyer's remorse. There's no doubt in my mind about Kamala Harris. There is buyer's, and then her pick of Tim Walz, a cartoon character, for her V pick, who lies at every turn, who is a pathological liar and honestly has weird body mannerisms. It's right now, I think, very desperate. And it's desperate because the liberals hate Trump so much. Obviously, they don't want him to be in office, but I think all of their surrogates are just angry. By the way, this is exactly was the tone on a smaller scale when her campaign fell apart at the end of November, which led to her dropping out of the primary December 3rd of 2019. There's a reason she didn't make it to Iowa in 2020.
And then we'll get to this later on. Vice filmmaker Adam McKay slams fellow Democrats for celebrating war criminal Dick Cheney.
Uh-huh.
The unholy political alliance between Kamala Harris and Dick Cheney has cemented Democrats as the party of neocon foreign policy and forever wars, a stark 180-degree pivot from when the left not so long ago demonized Cheney as both Darth Vader and Satan. Hollywood filmmaker Adam McKay, who directed the 2018 Dick Cheney biopic Vice, knows better than many Democrat elites just how much his own party has changed for the worse. You and I said it about her doing that. When Liz Cheney did that, we said, that's not going to help her.
No.
All it's going to do is really tick off the left.
Right.
The far left.
Well, that's especially when you bring your dad along.
Yeah.
It could have been that. And I think Dick Cheney is at least has the political savvy enough to know that was also going to be a spoiler. It was, obviously in support of his daughter. He doesn't care. He's not running. He's never going to run for office. He's not much of an influence at all anymore. But you brought your dad, that same Dick Cheney, the former Hitler, one of the former Hitlers, along with you. How did they think that was going to work? When I was thinking about this over the weekend, because there was a Texas Republican judge that's supporting Kamala Harris, and I was like, yawn.
No, yeah, the guy from Fort Worth.
Yeah. You look at Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. we can have a conversation about, we'll see. But Tulsi Gabbard, in terms of a former Democrat that's out there campaigning for Trump, you know exactly what's going on. You know exactly why she has left her party and why she's supporting Trump. There's no doubt. All these other Republicans, they just come off as, well, you've been liberal this whole time. There's no other way to explain it.
86690 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Here's a maintenance tip to help make sure your rig is ready when winter comes knocking. When temperatures fall, the paraffin wax in diesel fuel can thicken so much it clogs fuel filters or solidifies to the point where it will no longer flow. Invest in a new fuel filter now and consider adding a winter fuel additive to your maintenance routine to help prevent fuel gelling. To learn more about winterizing your truck, find a professional technician today and ask about their fuel additives and fuel filters.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So here we are. 29 days out from the election. We'll have more on that Hurricane Milton now. Yeah. I got friends in, as I mentioned last time, with Helene in Tampa. The whole thing of why the Democrats can't win the argument on FEMA and money for the southern states, North Carolina and everything else. We'll have that coming up here in just a little bit. What else? Oh yeah, Waltz on Fox News Sunday.
It wasn't great at all. And this thing with FEMA, after Helene, and we're seeing how deadly, one of the deadliest hurricanes ever, and now Milton on its way to Florida as a major hurricane, they believe. In a political year, we're just over 4 weeks away from a presidential election, and your FEMA is making excuses? These are people's lives. What are you doing?
listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Just reading here, just as Scott Jennings posted Harris's post on X the other day, where she wrote, the people of Lebanon are facing an increasing dire humanitarian situation. I am concerned about the security and well-being of civilians suffering in Lebanon and will continue working to help meet the needs of all civilians there. To that end, the United States will provide nearly $157 million in additional assistance to the people of Lebanon for essential needs such as food, shelter, water, protection, and sanitation to help those who have been displaced by the recent conflict. This additional support brings total U.S. assistance to Lebanon to over the last year to over $385 million. Scott Jennings writes, did Biden sneak into her office and send this?
Yeah, who's doing more damage to the Harris campaign, Biden or Harris?
Well, I mean, that's the problem with the whole FEMA and the hurricane assistance situation.
Yeah.
Number one, it took them too long.
Yep.
Number two, when it to get in there, you're talking about really 5 days.
Yeah.
You're talking about 5 days. Number three, it was the imagery of him being on the beach and her with the Hollywood celebrities.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing. For Trump being there first to provide assistance. The rest of it doesn't matter whether you sit there and you try to parse, well, FEMA has a bunch of disaster funds, and what was going on at the border was a disaster, and so FEMA needed to get into it, and those funds were separate, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. The imagery is there based on the substance that you care more about getting people into this country than you do serving American citizens. End of story. If you want to sit there and play the minutia of it, but this was simply money that was allocated over. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's the problem that they have right now.
You're not going to win it, and it's excuse making. That's the problem. You're making excuses. You should have led by being there first. Her campaign should have been there. Biden should have been there. Sorry, but you have to do it. You have to make contact with local officials. You have to demonstrate to people that you care. And there's the problem. They've demonstrated over and over they don't. Biden doesn't care. If he would, the botched exit of Afghanistan, if he would treat Americans and American service members like that, why would he care about the victims of a massive hurricane or a train derailment or anything else? Tell me what you have that shows you that he cares about any of it. And she's the same thing. I know this because Biden keeps telling me they're practically the same person. She demonstrates it over and over again. The lack of caring. You're either clueless or you don't care. It's one of the two. And now you've got Hurricane Milton on the way to Florida. And FEMA's still making excuses.
Well, I mean, the thing about FEMA, the head of FEMA talking about the fact that his workers on the ground could be in harm's way because of the rhetoric from Republicans. That's completely and totally ridiculous. What about Americans being in harm's way?
Right.
But the fact is, if you're somebody there who's helping, nobody cares who you are. It's the same thing.
They're right now. They need all the help that they can get, and anybody who's on the ground helping them is appreciated.
Anybody, and if there's a FEMA worker there helping, everybody knows it's not their fault. They're not blaming them. But this is, again, the victimization and the attempt to promote the fact that anything that Republicans do is only there to create violence.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see later on today and this week, won't we?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm saying this because of the October 7th anniversary.
Yeah. You know, this could be a crazy week. I hope everybody is wrong about it, but you saw all the sources talking about it over the last couple of weeks, really, that they're concerned about the anniversary of October 7th. And, of course, there would be a reason to be concerned. And hopefully it's not as bad as some might, or some have been saying that it could be, I guess, the potential of it. But you have the FEMA director, when she's, the administrator, when she's on TV basically saying our workers are victims, you're not getting any sympathy. How is it that this lack of self-awareness, but also the lack of what your role is, what your job is? It would be very simple. I wouldn't even address anything that's going on social media. I'm here to promote the facts of what's going on. I'm not going to talk about it. They bring up this and that and this. Here are the facts. Here's what we're doing. And we will make every effort. We know that this is going to disrupt lives for years to come. People are dealing with not only their property being gone, but in some cases, family members being gone. And as FEMA, it is our responsibility to be there to help them through this in every single way that we possibly can, and we're going to do that. How is that so hard? Instead of making excuses wanting to be the victim. That's pathetic. That's absolutely pathetic. And a slap in the face to the real victims that are grieving the loss of family members and that are suffering the loss of being displaced. Some realizing they'll never live in their home again. My gosh. How do you not open your eyes in a situation like this? Because your head's up your ass. That's how. Firmly. You should quit your job. How dare you do that to the people who are suffering one of the deadliest storms on record? And you're making excuses. You're trying to be the victim. Go home. You're not helping.
And so now with Milton coming in, I mean, with Milton coming in with the, October 7th, I already saw the Hamas flag being raised in Chicago at one of the protests. They're coming up. And then the Democrats not knowing what to do. They don't know where to go here. Let me just, trying to find the, yeah, here it is. Here's they're talking about what the campaign is. This is on Meet the Press. All right, here we go. All right.
You think about the Harris campaign strategy has gotten some criticism as well for not being basically mixing it up enough, enough events that are unscripted. Former President Obama is going to be out on the campaign trail. Liz Cheney was with her out on the campaign trail.
By the way, They say that as if it's a positive for Democrats.
Right.
Liz Cheney on the campaign trail. All right, she's got the Liz Cheney vote.
Yay! That Liz Cheney couldn't even get. Keep in mind, she lost last time she ran for office.
Let's continue.
Are you anticipating a strategy shift?
We've already seen them announce this, which I think is a great thing. Vice President Harris has a number of interviews she's doing over the next couple of weeks. Tim Walz, who I think is a huge asset who hasn't been tapped into nearly enough for the last month, is going to be out there a great deal. And you're right. I mean, the thing is, at this point, when everything matters, you have to take risks. And people may make mistakes. It's worth it. Put them out there and have them doing a bunch of stuff. But we've already seen them announce their plans to do exactly that.
What was it? The 45% of the undecided have no idea where Harris stands on one issue.
Yeah.
On one issue.
Yeah. Wow. And we're 4 weeks out tomorrow. Going on the Sunday morning news shows, we said this when they announced they were going to do more appearances. They were going to be more active. We're like, well, wait a minute. What the reaction from the people who were waiting for you to be that from day one is, why weren't you doing that from day one? That's the question. That's the only question you have to answer for me in this case. We're going to be doing more. Why weren't you doing everything every day from day one? Like I said, you start with early today, or maybe the ABC overnight show. Do they still air an overnight show? I don't know. There's not very many good overnight shows. I think we're the only one. Then you go out to the Today Show. Then you go out to the midday shows. You do, what's her name from E.T.? She's got a daytime talk show. And then you go and do the evening shows, or you do local interviews on local news, NBC Nightly News. Any of them will sit down with you at a moment's notice. You can get on the air anywhere you want to, and you cap it off with Stephen Colbert. How hard is that? You do that every day. Well, they don't have the confidence. She doesn't have the confidence in herself to be out there every day.
Here's one reason, because this is what's going to be, if this makes the 60 Minutes interview, but this was on the 60 Minutes interview, her talking about Israel. This is the problem. Here we go.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Yeah.
The hell was that?
I don't.
What does that mean?
It
doesn't mean
happen in regions. What regions?
That's the problem that they have. And Walls, the look he was giving Shannon Bream, I mean, it just was, the look into the camera was weird.
Well, no, he has that.
By the way, I didn't even realize I was using the term weird.
No,
but it was weird.
It's that same thing that he had going on during the debate. Sorry, optics are everything, because what people, and the reason is, people want to see somebody who's confident. They want somebody who can look the interviewer or the camera in the eye and not blink.
You know what was lacking in the interview yesterday with Walls? Joy.
Yeah, it sounded like desperation.
There's no joy. Look at him. There's no joy in Walls.
There's none. There hasn't been any joy in this campaign at all.
Where's the joy?
Where's the joy? Show us the joy. Make America joyful again.
I am a citizen of the United States,
and you deserve joy.
Who is not in control of anything. My emotions, I'm not in control of my life, and I need the Democrat leadership to provide me with joy.
That's right.
They need to be the leaders of joy.
Remember when they got on the whole pursuit of happiness, as if happiness was a right? Well, joy is a right. Remember that whole thing? That's not what that means, but that's okay. If you're going to go with it, we'll go with it too. Joy is a right. We want our joy. Make America joyful again. MAGA.
There's no joy in Walls.
There's
no
none.
joy.
There's none.
866-98 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up, following the top of the hour, the lessons of October 7th and what the goals should be and what the United States should be looking for in Israel. Did you see, you talk about Democrat versus Democrat, did you see what happened in Chicago with the school board? All of them resigned.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Because the mayor wants to put through a contract for the teachers union they don't have the money for.
Right.
So he wants to take out a massive loan
Yeah.
to pay the teacher's salary. And they're like, absolutely not. They all quit.
Yeah.
This is when money starts running out, when there is no more money because you've blown it all and you haven't got the result you wanted from blowing all the money. What do? You try to blow more money and then pay interest on it.
Yep.
Wow. So we will get to that. Oh, I got to get to the liberal filmmaker who slams fellow Democrats for celebrating war criminal Dick Cheney. I just love that.
Well, I mean, it was bound. Look, it was bound to happen. How would it not? We said it right off the bat. You know, congratulations, Democrats. Dick Cheney's now on your side.
And the effort by Hillary and other mainstream Democrats to get rid of the First Amendment.
Yeah. Wow.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here, as always. You know, when you take everything that is going on here, and in the last couple of weeks, we've talked about Hillary. A couple of weeks ago came out and talked about the fact that there needs to be punishment for disinformation, even criminal charges for disinformation. And we find that just incredible because the biggest disinformation effort ever in presidential political history is the Russian hoax.
Yep.
Is a Russian collusion hoax.
Yep.
Completely false, not just created by Hillary. It just wasn't a lie.
Right.
She actually took campaign money that they were fined for. She took campaign money, broke the law by saying that it was going for campaign things when it was going actually for opposition research and to create a complete false dossier of allegations against Trump that were completely and totally untrue.
Mm-hmm.
And to show you the damage of that misinformation, this is why Hillary should do life in prison for this. It came back once the dossier was done. Surrogates took it to the FBI. The FBI took it, did not fact check it. Got a secret warrant on it to spy on the Trump campaign. And then for 3 years, this country went through hell as the Democrats accused Trump of something that he never did. There was an independent counsel investigation that when it started, they knew it was BS. They knew the dossier was BS.
Yep.
They knew it by the time that started.
Yep.
They knew it by January of that year that it was all BS. Yet they continued to do it, and the entire Democratic Party for 3 years kept promoting the lie, quote, disinformation that Trump colluded with the Russians to hack the election. Completely and totally false. With as salacious material as you could possibly get about Trump in the hotel room and everything else.
Yep.
All false. Adam Schiff, who was leading, the last I saw, very big in the polls to become a senator, lied to the American public about what the intelligence on Trump said.
Yep.
Californians want him to be their next senator.
Yep.
The majority of California voters, if he wins, wants disinformation. The Democrats want their disinformation. Now, look, I go to X and I don't like it when somebody that I agree with says something that's false. Somebody who I agree with on the issues.
Right.
Says something that's false. I don't like it. but I'm able to get through it. And here's my choice. My choice is either the government controls it, which means I'll be limited in the information I can get, or I got to figure out what's going on, and it doesn't take long in the era of smartphones. I can figure out very quickly what the truth is and what the truth is not. But why is Hillary Clinton, again on Saturday, said that social media companies must moderate content or we lose total control? That is correct. They will lose control. Why would they lose control? Because the American public doesn't agree with where they stand. Why do everybody knows, the whole thing going on, Harris, we played the Meet the Press where, okay, she's going to get out there and she needs to separate herself from Biden. No, she needs to lie is what she needs to do.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, every Democrat listening right now knows she doesn't want to build a wall. Everybody knows she doesn't really wish to control what's going on and what has been going on at the border. She agrees completely with it. One thing is, in a rare moment of complete honesty on Friday, Joe Biden actually told the truth. The only place he didn't tell the truth is if she gets into power, would be more radical than him. Kamala Harris doesn't want to defund the police. Kamala Harris does not want fracking and the massive expansion of fossil fuels. And Kamala Harris does not want a wall. And Kamala Harris is not going to be tougher on the border than Trump. Everybody knows it. Every Democrat listening right now knows it.
Yep.
And that's the problem that they have right now. Everything you see right now is the evidence that Democrats know. Unless they get rid of the First Amendment, they can't control the narrative. The truth is out there. And people can find the truth. Even if there's massive disinformation on social media, you can still find the truth. And you know something, when you look at the polls, it shows that America actually knows what the truth is. The mainstream media, the liberal media, is losing their power.
This is what happens when you make people curious. There's a lot of willful ignorance out there with the American public, with the American voter. But in today's world, the Democrats have come up with such crazy ideas that the fact-checking is pretty relentless. But also the reality that is at the feet of the Democrats, caused by the Democrats, with a broken border and inflation and prices the way they are, has people wondering how we got here. And they know. They know by now. This is why you and I believe everything is really priced in right now. It is. There's nothing you're going to be able to do in the next few weeks if you're part of the Harris campaign. There's nothing you're going to be able to do to swing any amount of votes that would be measurable. You're just not. I think honestly, if they're going to hire me as a Democratic strategist, and my price is only $1.5 trillion, just added to the debt because nobody cares, then I would tell them, do everything you can to save the down ballot. But the problem with that is you're going to have to separate Kamala Harris and Tim Walz from everybody on the down ballot. So, word got out that Obama's going to do some campaign stops with her and the whole thing. Sorry. Again, too little, too late. Where were they well over 2 months ago? Where was everybody well over 2 months ago? Because, again, you're still 2 months ago, you're still roughly 90 days out from the election. It's go time. This is why James Carville was, again, cursing up a storm. I mean, he does that anyway. He does that when he's not angry. But he was angry last week. You got to get off your backside. You got to get out there. You got to move. No, they should have done that when it was announced she was going to be the nominee. when it was coming together that she was going to be the nominee. When they said they had the delegate votes, then it's everybody, all hands on deck at every turn. And no, the Obamas really don't care to do that, but you beg and plead and make deals or whatever. I don't know what you do. But you get everybody on deck, and at the very least, you get out there yourself. They're lost. And I believe their internals are showing some really bad news. I was looking at Pennsylvania. You've been saying on the Kerry Lake front in Arizona, it'd be hard to believe that Trump wins by if it's anywhere close to the margin right now that he has in Arizona. If he wins on RCP, if he wins by that margin, you've been saying that it'd be, and I would have a hard time believing he doesn't carry the down ballot. So then if you apply that, because that's just how it goes, but if you apply that to Pennsylvania, then you see and this is why RCP still has it as a toss-up state in the Senate race. And you see then if he takes Pennsylvania, then he could carry the down ballot there, which would mean right now with the RCP map, that would put them at 51 for the Republicans. Now, earlier this year, it looked like they could have 53 maybe. We'll see where it goes, but I'll tell you this. They know the internals. There's very clear evidence to me that the internals for the Democrats are showing some very bad news.
Someone sent me and said, "You guys are playing the polls and not the betting. The betting is more accurate." Not necessarily.
No.
And again, we don't talk specifics we don't talk that a specific poll is a be all end all. We talk about momentum of the particular polls.
Right.
But no, I've seen even betting with the point spreads. It isn't always accurate. Well, because people spend their money on it. Yeah, and people gamble with their money and lose all the time. They lose more than they win. So I mean,
Exactly.
It could be accurate. It might be accurate.
Right.
Who knows? We
Right.
will see. But that is not necessarily a guarantee of a victory. And I'll tell you the reason I say this, and many people don't remember it. And this is why I'm always hesitant, even though, as I've said, everything I see leads me to the indication that Trump should win right now if the election were held today. And it's being held today by what I see on the polls that were the most accurate in 2020.
Right.
And also the behavior of the political parties, which you're seeing right now. The behavior of the political parties of Trump saying, okay, I don't have to go on 60 Minutes. I'm not going to do another debate. And all of a sudden, Harris and Walz, and you can hear the media screaming. Their internals are showing them that it's eroding.
Right.
But overall, when you look at the future, where we're going in the next 10 years, the problem with the Democrats is they can't sell to the public where they believe on the issues. They're not going to be able to do that long term. The American public does not believe a man can be a woman because a man says so. The American public does not believe in identity politics, judging people by groups and not individuals. The American people know that it's wrong to enable massive funding of Iran.
Right.
They know it's wrong. They know that what Biden did there was absolutely wrong. The American public is not pro-open border.
Right.
The American public is not anti-fracking. The American public wants us to maximize, the potential that we have for energy and have a much more vibrant economy. That's the problem that the Democrats have. And for example, I see, Harris, they're going to do the 60 Minutes. Not really going to do anything. She was on the, Call Her Daddy podcast, which is normally about sex and gets quite risque and everything else, but decided to talk about reproductive rights. You had moments like this on that podcast. Listen to this. All right, here we go.
All right.
Outrageous, daddy gang, to put it in our TikTok terms. I have seen girls on the street walk up to men and be like, do you know where a tampon goes? Do you know how many tampons we use? Do you even know how, do you know what a X or Y or Z is of a part of our, and they don't know the answer.
I was the first vice president or president to ever in office go to a reproductive health care clinic.
But as was pointed out by Tommy Lahren, the woman is right about some men not knowing where a tampon goes. Ask Tim Walz. He puts them in boys' restrooms.
It's like it was a perfect setup for Tommy. I mean, Tommy just, boom, right out of the park. Right out of the park. Man, you walked into it. You walked into it.
It's right. Tim Walz doesn't know where they go.
Right.
But that's not going to do anything.
It's not going anywhere. But this is their identity politics over and over again. That's being rejected, and they bring it up over and over again, even though it's being rejected. But they don't see that. They don't see that.
And also, it's a question a growing number of Democrats are asking as the vice president is increasingly MIA on the campaign trail. Mm-hmm. There's a time at which you just have to barnstorm the battleground states. Obama campaign aide David Axelrod told Political, these races are decathlons, and there are a lot of events, and you have to do all of them because people want to test you. He said Harris needs to be doing more interviews, including tougher audiences that voters were expecting to see more of her. While Trump has flooded the zone in rallies around the country, Harris has played it safe. Her campaign has done almost no interviews. Her interactions with voters have been extremely limited. Top Democratic operatives are now fretting the approach is dangerously similar to Hillary Clinton's doomed 2016 campaign. Since the Democratic convention in August, Harris has spent a third of her time either receiving briefings or locked away in meetings. According to an analysis of her schedule by Politico, nearly half of her days since the convention have been in Washington, D.C. What the F are y'all doing in the Harris campaign?
Yeah.
Get her out there now, raged James Carville. But there's a reason for that. Again, she knows she's lying on where she stands about the issues.
Yep.
Because all you have to do is ask her, why have you changed from the administration's? Because the questions would be, why is Biden saying that you were instrumental in everything, yet you're denying that you agree with him on these issues of the border and the border and energy.
Right.
Just do that. Throw that out as the first two and make her answer the question. She simply has said, I've changed my opinion. She hasn't said why. Vance, when they asked, why have you changed on Trump, he specified why he changed on Trump.
Yep.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators with authority generally have two options when it comes to sourcing freight. Brokers on the spot market or directly from the source, the shipper. As any trucker with relatively recent experience with spot freight knows, the highs of working the load boards can be really high. On the other side of that coin, however, when the market flips in favor of shippers, it can be tough to keep your business afloat working with brokers. The smallest carriers with direct customers, however, can hang on through tough times or even prosper, as long as demand for their customers' product remains at least somewhat stable. Owner-operators in it for the long haul make direct business with customers a principal goal. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Running Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. But I do think that when you look at Hillary Clinton coming out again, this is the fear that you see, and it's now mainstream in the Democratic Party. They know they can't sell what they believe to the American public long term. So what they're preaching is government censorship.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
It's that. By the way, it's that simple. The reason that Harris hasn't been out on the road is because she hasn't believed, and the Democrats don't believe, that she can sell her message to the American public. It all gets back to that. They can't sell what they believe
exactly
and win elections. That's what they believe. Otherwise, the last thing they'd be calling for is to get rid of the First Amendment, since their disinformation has been quite successful.
Have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So I think it's really important to understand that if you wonder, where this election is going right now and where the Democrats' head is, I think it's really important to understand what John Kerry said last week, what Hillary Clinton now has said twice in the last couple of weeks, which is we need to get rid of the First Amendment. There's only one reason they're doing that. Only one reason. When you see the fact that they wanted to bury Kamala Harris and Walz, they didn't want them out there doing anything.
No.
There's a reason, because they don't believe they can sell what they actually believe, and they understand that they can't explain why they have flip-flopped on all the positions that we know she actually agrees with the Biden administration on. Everybody knows she's lying. And she's lying because they know they can't sell what they truly believe to the American public. Eventually, elections come down to issues. One particular election may not. You saw Obama. It really didn't come down to issues. It came down to hope and change. It could be whatever you wanted.
Yep.
And a lot of people came away from the Obama administration not really happy. How did things really change? And so that's the problem that Democrats have right now. But if you're looking at that, they're worried because they don't believe the message is getting through. They see with everything that they have put into the last month that she has flip-flopped on every major issue that she holds, which is a MAGA position. Have they moved in the polls?
Nope.
Nope.
In fact, the trend seems to be the opposite direction. It's again part of what I observed over the years, and that is they really thought they had won everything, especially after the advent of social media, when they had liberals controlling everything on social media. It's why Elon Musk buying Twitter and turning it into X has been so important for this nation, is because when you look at that idea, it was practically the second headquarters for the FBI when Jack owned Twitter, when he was in control of Twitter. And you look at what how they tried to, over and over again, shape narratives. Well, that didn't work. Elon Musk spoiled that, and basically, because there was demand for it, all of us spoiled that. So what do they have to do? They have to move to shutting free speech down. It won't be just on social media. They'll control Google searches. By the way, they're already controlled. Google does a lot of controlling information through that. But the government would come in and do even more. It would be everywhere you turn, the government controlling what you see and how people talk. Get control of the language. It is the first step in going full-on Marxist. And this is why they want to punish for using the wrong pronoun. Now they're calling for punishment, jail time for misinformation from the queen of misinformation. I was, by the way, referring to Hillary, not John Kerry. Those are the things that you look at and say, all right, why would they want to do that? Am I smart enough to know when people post a meme with Abraham Lincoln's picture on it that says, don't believe everything you read on Facebook? Am I smart enough to know that that's absolutely true? Yes, I am. It's absolutely true, 100%. I know that Lincoln said that. We all do. Duh. We're smart. By the way, we said this when the people who were controlling in the private sector, putting all these disclaimers up. Hey, how about you understand that there are some people that are going to buy into things. As you mentioned, there are people out there that, and we all have those friends that are repeating things, that's like, okay, that actually didn't happen. But we're capable of we're smart enough to find the truth ourselves. We damn sure don't need the government coming in. We don't need Mark Zuckerberg. I don't need Elon Musk to tell me what the truth is. I either believe it or I don't. And that's what it comes down to. This is a very dangerous set of ideas that they're promoting, but it's clearly the talking points right now from the left. And if they have their way, they will shut everybody down and punish everybody because they'll decide what qualifies as misinformation.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's amazing that it's Hillary Clinton. Well, Kerry's promoting it, but Hillary Clinton's promoting it more. This is the second time now she has promoted restrictions and free speech rights. And again, you talk about disinformation. Whoa. And you look at the disinformation, the lies that have come out of the Biden administration, the gaslighting, and it's really amazing that those who lie the most are the ones that wish to control the message.
Yeah.
Because why? Their lies aren't getting through if they're fact-checked.
Right.
And that's the problem. And so, when I'm for much more free speech and understanding that when I'm for much more free speech, I realize there's going to be much more disinformation out there. Mm-hmm. People will get stuff wrong. I don't like it. I've always said, and you've always said, there's not one reason that any conservative ever has to lie on any issue or has to embellish anything.
Right.
You don't have to do it. Don't do it.
Right.
If you stick to the major issues, you win. Yep. There are people that disagree with us and believe, no, I need to embellish things. You'll see it on social media. Mm-hmm. I disagree with it. And I know those people agree with me on the issues, and I think it's bad strategy when they do it. Mm-hmm. If you want to see what the closest that I have seen of how the Republicans and conservatives, the Republicans, conservative / populist should be messaging, J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the tone and the style and how to do it and stick to those issues and do it. But again, there's 330 million people out there that have access to it. But even with the obvious misinformation that I see out there, I can still find the truth in probably a minute.
Yeah, right.
On any issue.
Sure. Yep. And that's the thing, too. When I was with Aerosmith, they were, by the way, I don't know that I've ever gotten an email correcting that one thing. But if you and I said something like, look, when Dean Martin starred in Hogan's Heroes, we get the emails, right? Boom, 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 boom. By the way, I can hear the clackety clack on the keyboards right now.
But I could picture him.
Yeah, no, that would have been
instead of Bob Crane.
That actually would have been a great.
I could see him.
Hey boys, it's time to break out of here. What do you say? Boom, boom, boom. It's it is the collective basically coming. The collective. It doesn't sound too far leftist, does it? It's the entire group of people watching. If you read the comments, one of my favorite things to do is watch a YouTube video. And now some of the content providers are actually deliberately getting things wrong because when they're monetizing, they realize they don't have to say, hey, comment down below, because that just sounds old school. Hey, click the like button, subscribe, and comment down below. What they'll do is say, well, listen, my mom knew Dean Martin when he starred in Hogan's Heroes. She was part of the wardrobe crew then, and blah, 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 blah. And then you'll see all the comments go crazy. It's the same thing that we get. And some YouTubers are doing it because that interaction, that activity is crucial to them getting paid, to monetizing. That's a big part of it. Whistling Diesel is a prime example. If you've ever seen that, he'll and sometimes he looks straight into the camera, deadpan, and you understand what he's doing, and everybody knows what he's doing. But you'll still see comments, people going, "No, that's not true. That's not." And it's Whistling Diesel. This guy crushes it. He gets 15 million on some of his videos.
Never
20
heard of him.
million. He's tripling what Fox News does. One of the biggest YouTubers out there.
Wow, I've never heard of him.
And yeah, it's crazy. And it's insane to think that we can't find the truth ourselves, that we can't manage it ourselves. But it's really, for them, really not about the truth. It's, again, about controlling the language. That's where they want to go with all this.
Yeah, because they cannot convince the American public that they're right on the issues.
Right.
And how do we know that the public knows what the truth is on the issues? The majority do. The polling on the issues.
Yeah.
Shows America knows.
Yep.
You just bring it up, and I just happened to be going through the other day through one of the channels, and it was on again. I remember this as a kid. One of my favorite movie moments is with Dean Martin.
Yeah.
Rio Bravo.
Oh,
Dean,
great movie. Yeah.
Dean Martin and Ricky Nelson singing together with Walter Brennan playing harmonica and John Wayne watching as they sing My Rifle, My Pony, and Me.
Yeah.
I don't like musicals, and the movie's not a musical. It's really the only song in there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best moments.
Yeah.
And Dean Martin in that was a great actor. The vulnerability of basically an alcoholic was great. But him and Ricky Nelson singing together, and this comes from a prog rock guy. I absolutely love that movie moment.
Yeah, it was great.
But when you said it, I went, oh my
and
God.
Having those two in the movie, it's like, if we don't at least have one song, they're going to be knocking our doors down. We have to have them sing one song.
You got to sing one song,
Yeah.
And then Walter Brennan playing the harmonica.
Elvis hated doing movies. Hated doing those movies, but he wanted the serious roles, but the whole, the era of the beach comedy thing, and those kind of things. He didn't really care for doing those, according to everybody around him, everybody that knew him. But there were a couple of Westerns or a couple of serious roles that he did do that he really wanted to do. But you think of, Dean Martin and Ricky Nelson. Wow.
When you said that, Dean Martin on Hogan's Heroes, and I pictured him filling in for Bob Crane, and I went, that could have worked.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Here's Trump over the weekend in Pennsylvania.
You deserve a nation that builds things, again, makes things better, that aims for the stars once more, and that once again commands respect. And we want to get respect like we had it 4 years ago. The entire world respected us. They respected us. They respected us more than they've ever respected us. And now they laugh at us. We can't have them laugh at us, can we? Above all, you deserve leadership in Washington that does not answer to the lobbyists, to the bureaucrats, or to the corrupt special interests, but answers only to you, the hardworking citizens of America, of which there are a lot of them.
Trump over the weekend in Pennsylvania, returning to the site of the attempted assassination, wanted to stand in the exact same spot
Yeah.
By the way, you look and people will ask, well, did that help him? It helped energize the base like you can't imagine.
Yeah. And which is the opposite of what's going on with Kamala Harris. Tell me where the energy is for her base.
There isn't any.
There just isn't. They're angry. They're angry that there isn't. Their liberal activist media is angry that there is no energy.
The one thing is he said, basically we'll build things back, we'll build things. I don't know why he never used it. He should have used it in 2020. He should have used it in 2024. And it was very simple. And I don't know how many hundreds of times we suggested it to the campaign. My whole life, I've built things.
Yep.
I've created things.
Right.
That's what I wish to do for America.
Democrats want to destroy.
Yeah, Democrats
want to punish. They want to tear down.
Right. And when they say that I wish to harm the country, I'm a builder.
Right.
I'm a creator.
Right.
That's all I've done my whole life is help to build cities.
We've been saying this, that they should be using this for years. And we were heavy on it during the summer of 2020.
Oh, yeah, very heavy. We're like, we have no idea why nobody in the campaign. Think about this. This is their third campaign, and nobody has ever seen that simple tie-in.
Right.
It's really amazing.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Because that would have been great.
It should be the natural. Because what was the attraction to him? What in 2016, what do we hear? He's a businessman. He's a businessman.
Yep.
Well, actually, to be more specific, he's a builder of things.
Builder of things.
Where there was nothing, there is expensive real estate there.
You don't have to say things like, I've been in the private sector shit. Nope. I build things.
I build things, including wealth, including everybody.
I build things, they destroy things.
Yep, exactly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So you've got Harris now going to be on The View, Howard Stern, Colbert.
All right.
And 60 Minutes, which isn't it amazing? The one clip that Face the Nation played from 60 Minutes was horrible. We played it earlier where she gave word salad on, well, Netanyahu doesn't seem to be paying attention to what, listening or whatever.
Well, and then think of the other settings, okay? The View, Colbert,
softball,
and Howard Stern.
Softball. And
she's even worse in those softball settings. It may not be the word salad because she's not trying to get a serious point across, but then she starts making things. I guess she thinks they're jokes, and then she does the cackling, and nobody else in the room is laughing. That's a problem. And Colbert. Man, sometimes he really tries to be the good surrogate. You know what I mean? It goes beyond softball. It's like he'll almost hand you the answer to what he's asking you through how he phrases the question. It's not good. The timing is so bad. This should have been the case from day one. Or at least when they knew they had the delegate count, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they knew they had the delegate count, then you go out there, boom, 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 boom. And you do this all the time. She should have been on Colbert at least twice by now. Now, I don't know if Colbert would have booked her twice, but probably. We're making the rounds. We're going everywhere. We're just trying to get the word out to everybody. Boom, boom, boom. And you never stop. And it's like, oh, my gosh, she's everywhere. She's everywhere. That's what a campaign does. Donald Trump, it's weird. One of the first things that stood out, aside from the obvious, with the second assassination attempt, was that Donald Trump had a day off to golf. And I thought, that must be false information, because it's rare, especially during an election season, that he has a day off. That he has, and by the way, it wasn't scheduled. There must have been something must have happened, because it wasn't his schedule was blank. It wasn't on the schedule for him to play golf or anything else, and he was out there playing golf. The point being is he never takes any time off, which is, at the very least, you're never going to catch up to him. But at the very least, if you're running for president, you behave that way and you don't take a day off and you're everywhere, to the point that people are sick of you and know everything that you stand for. And it's quite the opposite with her. She's just now starting.
You want to know the worst take from the weekend?
What's that?
Former White House press secretary Jen Psaki pressured Republicans to endorse Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. She said in the I think it was in a post, for Romney, Bush, Kelly, and Pence, time is running out. If you don't speak up loudly now, you may lose your chance, and the history books will remember, Psaki said.
I'm sorry. What? What does that mean? What does that mean exactly? I mean, precisely what does that mean?
The history books will remember.
Yeah. Who was it?
No, but that's, again, that mindset to begin with. By the way, apparently, she's completely off now the fact that Walz promotes a new type of masculinity. Apparently, the masculinity thing hasn't worked.
No.
This is the panic right now. Everything right now you're seeing is a panic from the Democrats.
Well,
when you're sitting there thinking that if Romney, Bush, and Pence came out and endorsed Harris, that would make a difference in the election, you're delusional.
It clearly shows you have no idea of what the political landscape has been for a long time.
Is that part of them being in the bubble that we talk about all the time? The bubble of the bubble of Washington?
Well, how can it not be, right? How can it not be something like that? Because I guess you're so steeped in it, and also in their blue bubble in D.C., which in and of itself also is a blue bubble, if you know anything about it, with the exception of our friends at WMAL and and the conservatives that are on Capitol Hill, both of them. It has to be that they're in the situation, they have their head buried so deep that they just look at it and say, if we just had Bush and Romney, what? And Bush? It'd be more relevant to say, well, Jenna Bush supports her. It's not, because it's there isn't. You mean the same Bush that is besties with Michelle Obama? That guy? You're telling me he would vote and support and endorse it, if this were to happen? That it would be amazingly shocking and change people's minds? No, it doesn't. You know why? Because none of these individuals are going through what Americans are going through on a regular basis. None of these individuals, first of all, the political thing is laughable. George W. Bush invited some friends of ours to the White House in his final days.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to them, I know it wasn't, I appreciate you being here at the White House today. You're good Americans. I'm sorry I wasn't a conservative all the time. And he actually, it was some attempt at a mea culpa. I don't know why he thought he needed to do that. Maybe that was part of legacy building on his way out the door. I don't know. But you and I, in our first years together, during his second term, we thought at times, some Republicans would be downstairs at our old building waiting for us when we got off the air, because we didn't have any problem going after Bush and Republicans, especially on fiscal matters, and that was a big deal. It's not, this is the thing. If you don't understand that, is it also this, that they're not only are they blinded by the blue bubble they live in or the bubble they live in, but also by their lack of experience and time? I mean, you and I remember it. We don't forget. I don't know. How old is Jen Psaki? She's not as old as me.
No.
And so, yeah. So these people don't remember. But you would know with Romney, Mitt Romney's not a party favorite.
She's 45.
Yeah, okay. Quite frankly, looks pretty healthy for 45. I was going to say younger if I had to guess. But the fact of the matter is, we have been, and conservatives have been on it. Look, we went after Mark Rubio and Mike Lee in the Senate when they were pushing for a fully refundable increase in the child tax credit.
I don't know of a Republican we haven't gone after.
Right, exactly. And so how is it that...
Let me put it, establishment, because there are some Republicans we haven't gone after that may be Congress people or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I thought of one. I don't believe I've gone after Byron Donalds for anything he said so far.
So far, no.
I don't believe I don't.
Right.
But I will if somebody disagrees with me. And we went after Bush hard. And you're right. I mean, when I remember, I don't think we were working together yet. When Bush, I know we had the same opinion. When McCain-Feingold.
Oh, yeah.
When he decided to sign McCain-Feingold, and he said, I know parts are unconstitutional, but I'll let the courts dealt with that. That infuriated us.
And it took years, of course, to go through the courts. We were like, no.
We were just livid over that one. And the other thing was it would have been in 2008, right? 2008 with the automobile bailout.
Yeah.
And he said, sometimes you have to go against your principles. And we just said, what a dumb thing to say.
In fact, when things get tough, this is when your principles actually matter.
Either you have economic principles and you believe in them based on the observation of economics and how it actually works, or you don't. Economics is not an opinion.
We should have gone through a deeper recession that should have been short-lived without muddying the waters the way that they did at the end of 2008 in the final days of his presidency. Right. And that muddied the waters and presented a ton of uncertainty on the markets as to which banks were solvent and which ones weren't for the longest time, and then which businesses. Then you get into at first it was a bridge loan for GM, and then Obama, changed that into and it doesn't all fall on Bush, but it's the same mindset.
Right.
The GM, GM bailout. And you get that, you build that political will by doing those things. And we said, no, you either stand or fall. And and every single time we were proven right because, again, of what we believe in. But those, this endorsement thing is ridiculous because it shows how blind they are. So you got the Bushes and the Cheneys, huh? I mean, think about if that were to happen.
Yeah, Bush did not.
I know. But I'm saying if it were to happen, if you bring up this idea of Bush and and Romney and
Pence.
Who do you think you're making ground with?
Well, that's not even the point. The point is that she's using the term history books will remember.
Sure.
That unique threat that the history books, that won't even be a side note. That won't even be brought up in the history books.
Right.
What we brought up in the history books is this is a political candidate who, number one, only got into her position not through the primary process, but because they forced a cognitively impaired president, forced him out of office. That's what's gonna make the history books. History books and Mitt Romney, who once ran for president, didn't endorse Kamala Harris, and we just saw it. That needs to go down as a footnote in history. They're not going to do that. Not going to be any footnote.
Again, as if it would turn any tides,
right,
and change history at all. You're doing her campaign a disservice if that happened. You're solidifying Trump's base if you believe that would be the answer, because that's what's implied here. She's implying that those are the guys that would essentially bring on the other Republican voters to change their mind enough for her to win. You're blind.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I mean, it's you think about it, and you think you're in a delusional world. It's like, well, as you said, everybody's doing drugs, and apparently the secondhand smoke is invading our senses at times. But Vice filmmaker Adam McKay slams fellow Democrats for celebrating war criminal Dick Cheney. An unholy political alliance between Kamala Harris and Dick Cheney has cemented Democrats as the party of neocon foreign policy and forever wars, a 180-degree pivot from when the left not so long ago demonized Cheney as both Darth Vader and Satan. You know, could you imagine in 2005, 2006?
Yeah.
Thinking to yourself that someday the Democrats would be coveting the Dick Cheney endorsement?
I would have told you you're smoking crack.
Hollywood filmmaker Adam McKay, who directed the 2018 Dick Cheney biopic, Vice knows better than many Democrats elites just how much his own party has changed for the worse. McKay has called out his fellow Democrats for celebrating Dick Cheney's endorsement of Kamala Harris, saying in a recent social media post that Cheney is a major war criminal and far more destructive force than Trump.
He's worse than Trump.
By the way, I don't agree with that from Dick Cheney. By the way, I want to make that clear.
No, but it's how they feel about it.
But that's how they feel, yes.
Look, I don't know if they're right or not. He might be Satan, but he's not Darth Vader. That's taking it too far. Stop it. Stop it right now. That's just wrong. And the reason I leave that possibility open about Satan is because he shot a lawyer in the face and the lawyer apologized. It's a true story. Look it up.
And so, but the desperation is there. Everything that you see, things like that. Jen Psaki coming out saying that the history books will remember if Romney, Pence, and Bush don't endorse Kamala Harris. The all of a sudden, boom, Kamala doing all these friendly interviews this week.
Yeah.
That's because their internal polls are showing they're down.
Yep.
That's the only reason to do. There's no reason to change policy on it.
No.
The reason they were talking about it on the Sunday morning news shows, she's changing policies. Well, Jen Psaki said it. She's not using Walls enough. He's a great advocate for he's horrible.
He's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
And all
Absolutely
of this is because it tick, 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 tick. And this is when we talked about this in the 2016 election. This is right around the time, right, beginning of October to the middle of October, where you saw the movement.
Yeah.
In the polls, it never changed. Once they started moving in October, they never changed. And so that's the problem that they have right now. And the problem they still have is it doesn't matter how many interviews she does if she can't explain the flip-flopping of the positions.
Yes.
And she can't do it.
She can't. It's just impossible to work around all of that and try and get this done in a matter of weeks when now you already have early voting underway in some areas, and pretty soon it's going to be in a lot of areas. You're not going to convince anybody. What you're going to do now is you're going to look desperate. Any major move, any big move that is different than what they've been doing looks bad.
The problem with putting her not just on friendly media, on slobbering friendly media, is it's going to come across as that because they're not going to get into the serious topics. And she's going to get into. I thought you brought up a great point. The more friendlier the interview is, the scarier it is because they're talking about fluff topics, which brings out her laugh and more of the word salad,
and it's just,
that doesn't make any sense.
She's going to try and be cool and hip with Colbert, especially with Colbert and with Howard Stern. And she's going to try and do a little bit of that on the set of The View. She won't get away with it. It's not going to work. It looks really bad when she's trying to do jokes.
Show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. You know, still, for me, every single day until the election is over, really, I mean, I have to pay attention. It's part of, what we do. But really, for me, it's yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. Yeah. All the minutia, all the different issues out there. I've made it clear. I'm voting for Trump for one reason and one reason only, and that's to stop the weaponization of government. Everything else is secondary to that. Every fiscal issue, everything is secondary. I don't agree with where the Republican Party is going.
Right, yeah.
I haven't for a long time. I believe they're going much too moderate, much too populist, much too liberal.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy. I'm not fully on board with everybody who supports Trump.
Right.
Robert Kennedy Jr. would be one. In the back of my mind, I understand Elon Musk on X, tremendous public service, lost a ton of money. But in the back of my head, am I saying, does he want to be friendly with the Trump administration so we can keep subsidizing his EV Teslas?
It's one of the first things I thought of, because every corporation looks to gain favor with anyone they think is in a position of power to help their corporation or industry. That's just the way it works. And if there's going to be any movement in EVs, it really has to be convincing conservatives or people on the right, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about what's the biggest wall they have right now in front of them, any EV maker.
Right.
It's people on the right.
And remember, he remembers that Trump was it Evian was the truck maker that went out of business?
What was
it?
Evian. That's the water company, I think.
Okay. Well, obviously, we're not subsidizing water. Have you seen how much it is when you go into the store and buy a bottle of water?
I'm personally subsidizing bottled water companies. There was.
I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, there's a couple of them actually that have gone bust. One of them without ever building a car.
Lordstown.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The Lordstown. Okay.
And you may have been thinking also the name Rivian, which is still out there.
Rivian. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It was a Lordstown. Remember, Trump did support the right type of EV to be subsidized. No. So I mean but those are things. Those are everything else is completely. Here it is up here. Weaponization of government up here.
Yeah.
Every other basic issue way down there.
Yep.
I mean, for people to understand, if Trump wins, it's not all going to be candy and roses.
No. In fact,
there's going to be massive.
There may not be any candy.
Right. There's going to be massive infighting within side the Republican Party.
Yep.
Because there are Republicans that still want to cut.
Well, and
so he's going to need Democrats if Trump gets to be president and wishes to put forth more spending. He's going to have to get Democrats to agree with him on it.
We're not the guys who promote working across the aisle and bipartisan and blah, 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 blah. That's always the left that says, I mean, they gave John McCain the title Maverick. He's a maverick. Well, it just meant that he was moving further and further to the left. It was always him reaching across the aisle in their direction, not the opposite. And so we're not big fans of that, but if you're building a legacy, you're going to probably reach across the aisle. And we all know that that's not going to be reciprocated. They're not going to be reaching across the aisle to you to help you in any way. But I guess we'll see. And you and I have both said this. We have concerns about a second term for Donald Trump because of what we just said, building a legacy, which could mean working with Democrats too often for our taste, for our concerns. But we'll go through that one by one, issue by issue. Nothing matters before taking care of all of the massive rot right now inside of the Department of Justice, the weaponization of the DOJ, lawfare. All of this has to come to an end. We have to absolutely end this as a nation and get back to the issues, period.
Wanting to destroy the Supreme Court of the United States. And the reason I bring that up and give a few examples, and everybody knows that they're, most Republicans at one time or another we've had disagreements with. We'll have those one by one if Trump wins. But the big thing is weaponization of government. That's why, for example, all these different people are trying to interview Mark Cuban, and Mark Cuban's going, issue by issue by issue. That's not the point. What you should be attacking Cuban on is what they've done.
Right.
The weaponization of government. That's what you should be going after Cuba, because everything else is secondary.
Yeah.
It's like the whole, I saw Shannon Bream call out Walls yesterday. Well, he wants to put a 20% sales tax. Not a sales tax, it's a tariff. Sales tax is not a tariff.
Right.
What you're saying is any tax is a sales tax. So corporate tax is a sales tax then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So he doesn't want to say tariff because somebody come back and go, well, you guys kept most of his tariffs and added more.
Right.
So there's no argument. There's no argument to it. So you're getting into the minutia of all these things, and you're not getting into the real reason why, so many Americans are upset. And for most Americans, it would be inflation and the border. For me, the number one issue, and this is where I would disagree with the majority of the population out there, the number one issue by far is a weaponization of government for me. That's it.
Right, yeah.
That's it. Everything else is secondary. Now, we'll get into those discussions if Trump wins about, okay, how are you going to unleash America's fossil fuels?
Right.
How will you be able to do that? Can you get Congress? Will there be enough members of Congress to agree to open up all federal lands? Will the problem be if you open up federal lands that oil and natural gas companies don't wish to do it because the last thing they want to do is put long-term capital investment into a particular area, knowing that 4 years from now, that may be all wasted money because the Democrats will shut it down again.
Right.
Those are the real world things, the real political world things, when you get into the things that Donald Trump actually can do and can't do without Congress. And even if he can do them without Congress, there's a fear of industries to get involved in those things because it would be long-term capital investment, and they're afraid the Democrats will take power in 4 years or 8 years, and they don't want to do that.
Right.
They'll go to where it's safe. So what he can do about that in the real world will be interesting to see. But on the budget, is Trump going to come in and attempt to balance the budget? There's no promise on that.
You know, again, because where does that pressure come from? It comes from conservatives, fiscal conservatives, and how many do we actually have on Capitol Hill, or might have we on Capitol Hill after the election is done? It gets down to a handful because there's only a handful of us, rank and file, boots on the ground, that are screaming about it, that are greatly concerned about it. So the political pressure isn't a big driver.
On Republicans, we understand. You know, when Cuban talked about, look, he's talking about price controls, but a 10% on, 10% interest on credit cards is price controls.
Right.
And he's right, it is.
Yeah, right.
And so when you have both Democrats and Republicans moving closer together on liberal politics, that's going to be an opening for somebody like Cuban.
Yep.
But the fact is, that's not why I'm voting for Trump.
Right.
I'm voting for Trump. The number one biggest reason to stop the weaponization of government.
Yep.
And in all of its forms that we just mentioned before.
Well, again,
everything
because
else we can is a problem we'll have to handle, and he'll have to get support from Congress and do all these things. And you're still limited, whether you're Republican or Democrat, on what you can spend and borrow, because now we know how it leads to inflation.
Right. And nothing else matters before we take care of the weaponization of government. Nothing else gets done before that. Because as long as that's in play, as long as we decide as a nation not to end it, not to put a stop to it, it will continue, and it doesn't matter what the policymakers or the president are doing. It doesn't matter if they're going after people and targeting people the way they have been. That cannot continue.
No, it can't. And so all I'm looking for is a pause on it. I'm not saying it's going to end, but Trump in office gives a 4-year pause to it. And the other thing is, as you notice, one of the reasons they want Harris and Walz out there, they're saying, well, they need to be telling the American public what they're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. It shows that the demonization of Trump is over. We said it with Jack Smith, re-indicting.
Yeah.
That story what, lasted a day, maybe?
Maybe a day.
Maybe a day and a half on liberal media.
Right.
It was gone. All of that's been priced in. You can say everything you want about Trump. He's going to be a Hitler. Well, you can't say that because he served for 4 years and he wasn't a Hitler.
Right.
And so all this stuff. So now they're scrambling. What do we do? What do we do? Get him out there. Get him out there. Just get him out there. But it's all friendly media where they won't ask serious questions, and she may laugh. I'm guaranteed they're talking about this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And she's going to be laughing and laughing and laughing.
Right.
Colbert's not going to ask serious questions, and he's not going to do a follow-up, and everybody knows. See, the thing is, everybody recognizes both with Walz and Harris their BS style.
Right.
Just like Dana Carvey doing Biden.
Yeah.
And those catchphrases.
Right.
The whole middle class thing. They can't get away from it.
Well, and even if Colbert wants to pose a serious question, if he wants to, try and pose as a journalist for a moment and ask a serious question, she has a tendency in those settings to not be serious, to want to be laughable. I'm sorry, personable. From her perspective, she's trying to be relatable, which is awkward for her. She's not capable of pulling it off. And then if she tries to be serious, it turns into a word salad. And not one of the good, refreshing salads either. You know, the garbage kind that they end up throwing away.
Well, that's, and that's where we are right now. And so I would say for people like me and you, it's a weaponization of government, followed by inflation, followed by the border. But the weaponization of government covers a ton of constitutional stuff.
Exactly. And, and those other two, they're to me, they kind of go hand in hand, because we've got to get national security is imperative. It's paramount.
I'm sorry, national security is in there too.
And that's part of the border. So that's, so the other two basically are tied for second place, inflation and the border, national security. They all kind of fall under that second place. Massive set of reality moments that has led us to where we are. All of that has to be undone. All of that has to be fixed. It's not going to be easy.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. It's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Boy, I got a story out of Chicago for you. Democrats going after Democrats. Whoa! That's like, whoa.
Yeah, okay.
We'll get to, did we get a latest update yet? Hurricane Milton.
They expect Hurricane Milton to become a major hurricane. That would be sustained winds of over 110 miles per hour.
I meant like at 1 o'clock is what I was not. I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you meant.
Yeah. Okay.
And just getting the audience caught up, they expect Milton to become a major hurricane sometime today. That would be sustained winds of 110 miles an hour or more, with eyes set on the Yucatan Peninsula, but then straight for Florida, they believe. The question will be, will the wind shear, as it gets closer, diminish Milton at all before or right at making landfall? We'll follow the forecasts, which are ever changing on Hurricane Milton.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm sorry, just reading something that's making me laugh. Douglas McKinnon, Hillary Clinton is wrong. It's all about the November surprise.
Yeah.
And just a couple of things here. We're just about 4 weeks to go before the presidential election. Douglas McKinnon wrote this, thehill.com. Mm. Various people are predictably rolling out their October surprise scenarios. The most prominent such person is Hillary. This is not a shock to many who believe her to be behind the Russia collusion surprise unleashed on Donald Trump in the summer of 2016.
Yeah.
That surprise was known. They knew it was going to happen.
Yes.
And a proven hoax orchestrated to take down the Trump campaign. For those of you who may have forgotten that, sordid episode or who seek to pretend it never happened, I suggest they read the Durham report released in May of 2023. While doing an interview with Firing Line host Margaret Hoover on PBS, the former First Lady and Secretary of State spoke of an October surprise to come, speculating, listen, this is when I started laughing, okay?
All right.
Speculating that there will be a concerted effort to distort and pervert Kamala Harris, who she is, what she stands for, and what she's done. It's like,
Yeah.
I know it's coming next. I know it's coming next. That's why you're laughing because you know it's coming next. Here. Surely Clinton knows that tens of millions of American voters, along with a number of grizzled political pundits from both sides of the aisle, find that laugh out loud absurd. Distort and pervert what Harris stands for? Are you kidding me? Harris, the shadow puppet masters behind her, and much of the media are working 24/7 to ensure the voters never learn what she stands for.
That's a great point.
Furthermore, Clinton herself has endorsed that hide from the media and voter strategy. While on the Kara Swisher podcast just last month, Clinton forcefully declared that it's a double standard to ask Harris to explain her unexplained policies. A double standard? Somehow Clinton and others on the left find it insulting that the public should want to know what their potential next commander-in-chief believes and what she would do if given responsibility over a world on fire. On fire in large part because of the failed policies, mistakes, and misdeeds of her own administration. Wow. More alarmingly, Clinton also suggested the media needs, this is the best part, this is what made me laugh the most. Most alarmingly, Clinton also suggested the media needs a consistent narrative about the danger that Trump poses to the country in the coming weeks. Maybe Clinton is slipping or is not paying attention to current events. The mainstream media's coverage of Trump has been relentlessly negative since 2015. It's never stopped pushing that consistent narrative.
Exactly.
Wow. Clinton also warned that countries such as Russia, Iran, and China may fuel disinformation on social media, seeking to influence the election. Wow. Right back to her disgraced and debunked 2016 playbook. In spite of, and often because of, the personal and partisan hysterics of Clinton, tens of millions of Americans have cracked the code. They realize they're being played. Harris, the media, and the entrenched liberal elite, or by Harris, and the entrenched liberal elite. More than that, despite any double standard, they are deeply troubled that Harris and her running mate are hiding from the media while taking voters' basic need for information for granted. Nor, one can surmise, do these voters, like the Trump, has been suggested to massive smearing and lawfare campaign engineered to take him down. In similar fashion, didn't like Democrats' smear campaign and ballot suppression efforts against former Democratic-turned-independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who by no coincidence at all is now part of Team Trump because tens of millions of voters are on to the game. The October surprise for this election is that no surprise will matter. These voters are not going to be swayed one way or another by some scandalous news leaked in the dead of the night from a faceless operative. Mm-hmm. That's a great point. You know, we've talked about this. When did I say it? What was the day? Was it middle of September? Or was it? No, it was 2 weeks ago.
That you
said 2 weeks ago today.
That you said
the election's basically over.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, everything's been said. It was 2 weeks ago today.
Yeah, and I believe that, you know, I think I said about the same time that I don't believe there are any undecideds left. And in that, what I mean is, if there are undecideds, it's really whether or not they're going to get out and vote at all. And so you could still put them technically in that undecided category. Everything is priced in. Everything is factored in. We've seen how diminished the toxicity of Trump is now. It's all but gone. Yeah, there's some holdovers, you know, Dick Cheney, Mike Pence, or as they call them, the Veep creeps. Those are the things that we look at in the weeks, and tomorrow is 4 weeks out, in the weeks before an election. Fetterman over the weekend saying Trump understands that Pennsylvania decides who the president's going to be. I would rephrase it and say Trump understands how critical Pennsylvania is, because it is. And you look at Ohio used to be one of those states. Trump, it looks like, is going to take Ohio. And if there's any indication on Pennsylvania, I would say the momentum is going toward Trump. I can't tell you who's going to win Pennsylvania, but it appears that Trump is gaining that momentum and that upper hand there. And Fetterman acknowledging the turnout of the Butler, Pennsylvania return when the rally was held over the weekend. And it's critical for the Democrats. I think we're probably in not even in the same place that we were in 2016. You and I were saying about 6 weeks out, watch Pennsylvania. We weren't believing the polls. I knew some. In fact, I had at least one friend that was working as a Democrat volunteer during that time in Pennsylvania, and was saying things aren't looking great. And we kind of knew there were signs that Pennsylvania was going further and further for Trump in 2016. I think right now there's even more reason to believe that it would go his way, because we're not in the abstract, and because so much is directly related to Pennsylvania in the whole fracking thing. We know she wants to shut down fracking. We know she wants to shut down oil and natural gas production. We know she wants to. And so do the producers in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is one of those oil-producing states, the original oil-producing state. But it's one of those, like pretty much any industry, when there's an industry in that state that drives it, whether it's farming, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's energy production, you don't have to work directly in that field to be affected by it for that to affect the economy. It drives all the economy, including people that don't work directly in that field. So it is, in the major metro areas, people are just kind of blind to it. They just kind of take advantage of how great the economy is the local economy, the state economy, as a result of that energy production, but they still vote blue. That's your hang up in a state like Pennsylvania. They get the benefit from the energy production and the wealth that it provides, yet they vote to shut it down. It sounds absurd, but it's exactly what happens, and we've seen it happen in many places across this country. But Pennsylvania is a key. It is, because I also think it's part of the whole manufacturing thing. It's the whole Teamsters thing, and more union members looking at this going, yeah, you know what? We actually do favor Trump, because I'll say this, because of Trump to a large extent, but certainly I think also because of energy production, the Republicans are the party of the working class, but the pro-manufacturing party. If you want to label either party as pro-manufacturing, it has to go to the Republicans. We're not giving them a perfect score by any means, but if you're going to label one or the other as pro-manufacturing, it's going to go Republican. And so for that, you look at the mindset in other states like Wisconsin and Michigan. Well, both of those states are two of the states that are, the undecided states, or the toss-up states, rather. And in both the race for the White House and the Senate. So looking at that scenario, you and I have talked about this. There is a similar mindset in these states of working class individuals who want a government that is going to work for their long-term benefit. We'll see if it happens, but I think if he takes Pennsylvania, I think there's a very good chance that he takes Michigan and possibly Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens, he wins the election.
Right. I tend to look from, again, everything goes from previous elections and where you may be going with with the working class vote and the union vote, as we have seen, and the minority vote. And I would look at it and say, if, I've said it before, I believe if he wins Pennsylvania, he wins the election. Be very surprised if that did. If that happened and he didn't.
Yeah. Yep.
By the way, I'm just reading here because Jen Psaki is the most insane one. She really is. I mean, what a nutcase she is. She had Michael Cohen on, Trump's former lawyer.
Yeah.
And the big warning I want people to understand is when Donald Trump says something, stop saying washing it. Stop trying to make it into something which has some normalcy to it. What he says he intends to do. And when he turns around and says gentle, like the head of this network or other people who are critics, that he intends to use SEAL Team 6 or the military within, which is to round up his critics and opponents, he intends to do it.
Yeah, you're insane. Seriously. But yet, what have we seen in the weaponization of government? Where does that come from? That's towards Trump and towards conservatives.
Yeah. You've seen all the weaponization of government.
This is how they think, by the way. This is how they think. This is why they're trying to tell you that's what Trump would do, because they believe it's a tactic that is usable. The right doesn't. And that's how, again, over the years, we've said it. You have to understand this is what they think. This is how they think. This is how they act. So I believe some of them actually believe that because they're okay with the tactics being used against him and people on the right in the weaponization of government. Of course they're saying this. Of course they're warning this.
It's all they have.
It's all they have. It's all they have. Hillary is saying this information should get you sent to prison.
I know.
The mastermind behind the Russian hoax says misinformation should send you to prison. Wow. I did not have sex with that woman.
Maybe that's what she meant. She wants him to go to jail. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Roadside inspections all begin with the driver interview, during which the officer will gather basic information from the driver and prepare the driver for the inspection. The officer will also be evaluating the driver, determining if the driver can speak English, is under the influence of anything, has an illness, or is fatigued. The officer will ask the driver for required documents, including vehicle and driver credentials, the driver's log, and shipment paperwork. The officer may also conduct a vehicle inspection. Before beginning the inspection, the officer will take steps to make sure the inspection can be done safely. These include chalking the wheels, wearing personal protective equipment, and explaining what will be required of the driver. The driver needs to pay close attention to these instructions so that the vehicle inspection can be conducted in a manner that is safe for the inspection official. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
Red Eye Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Did you see since last October 7th, Eric, anti-Semitic hate crimes up 200%, on college campuses up 600%. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Hoping that this week isn't what some have predicted it would be, with a lot of radicals out in full force. But, I mean, here we are a year in. It's hard to believe that it's been a year, but it also seems like, in some ways, a lifetime since last October 7th. Think about all the things that have happened, all the events that have happened. If you had told me in the weeks after 9/11 that at one point we'll have radicals, Americans, promoting their disdain and their anti-Semitism, their disdain for the Jewish people and their anti-Semitism and their pro-terrorist stance, I would have laughed you out of the room. But here we are.
Well, one thing we did find out the anti-Semitic narrative that is again stamped on the Democratic Party. Every time I hear two-state solution, that's what that means.
Yeah, right.
That means I'm an anti-Semite. You know, when was the last time you heard Democrats hit harder the fact that Hamas or Hezbollah hides and uses civilians as human shields? When was the last time that you heard them furious about that?
Yeah, right.
Never. You don't hear it.
Doesn't exist.
You don't hear it.
Nope. Doesn't exist.
Since Hamas uses human shields, you know, we know that when they took them out under the bunker buster missiles last week and killed a lot of the Hezbollah leaders, that it was underneath a residential building.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they hide.
Right. Yeah.
When was the last time that you heard anybody on the left criticize that? What they're saying is, since Hamas does that, then Israel needs to stop the war.
Right.
And create a two-state solution.
Right.
Which the Hamas state doesn't want.
Yeah,
they want the elimination of Israel.
Yeah, the would-be two states aren't calling for that.
Right.
They're calling for the elimination. They want to wipe Israel out of existence. That's their entire mission. That's their entire goal.
What have we learned since October 7th in the United States? That a significant portion of the left hates Jews.
Yep.
That's what we found out.
Yep. And they're proud of their hatred.
Yep.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The horrendous slaughter of Israelis and others occurred a year ago today. And so a year ago, where are we? Well, let's go to just part of the Wall Street Journal editorial that they wrote, The Lessons of October 7th, a year later. Another ugly surprise has been the support for Hamas argument in the West, especially on elite college campuses. The intellectual case for murderous terror was made by Franz Fanon and taught for 2 generations, has poisoned the young against their own civilization. Students for Justice in Palestine called October 7th a historic win for Palestinian resistance, and anti-Semitism was tolerated by university presidents as free speech. This has been a shocking revelation, especially since his view has become a major influence in the Democratic Party. President Biden and Vice President Harris have felt obliged to chastise Israel for its response to the massacre as much as they do Hamas for hiding behind innocent children. No, they haven't. I disagree with the Wall Street Journal on that. They haven't criticized Hamas for hiding behind innocent children as much as they chastise Israel.
No.
Israel's fought on despite its international critics who have underestimated Israeli public support for the powerful military response. Israel has shown more political resolve and military strength than its enemies anticipated. The reply of respectable liberalism has been to urge de-escalation, ceasefires, and two-state solution, and to blame Netanyahu when they don't materialize. It's as if Hamas, Hezbollah, and their patron in Iran didn't exist. Hamas has refused to engage with mediators for weeks, and a Palestinian state at peace with Israel has never been its objective or Iran's. They don't want the two-state solution, so please, Mr. President, shut up about it. They want Israel destroyed and Jews expelled or murdered. As long as Iran pursues war, Israel must defend itself aggressively to survive. Mr. Biden has supported Israel, but has also tried to cut short its defense. The only reason the Democrats support Israel is because they know the majority of the public does.
It's politically feasible to do that and for them, and it's because otherwise, if they were to come out and talk about how they really feel, there would be zero support. And we judge the Biden administration by their actions. Joe Biden is the one person right now with the power to cut off Iran. And he doesn't do it. In fact, he did the opposite just after becoming president.
Did you hear? I was reading, what was I reading over the weekend? That somebody was suggesting maybe Biden, if he wants to control Israel and have them to back off from a response on Hezbollah in Lebanon, should tell Israel, we're going to cut off all of Iran's oil money. So take something that caused it and use it to convince Israel.
So that's like setting the house on fire in the backyard, coming around the front yard and grabbing a hose. Yeah, trying to be the hero of his own undoing, basically. His own destruction that he has caused by allowing them to be funded. The oil sanctions could be in place right now, and he refuses to do that.
Did you see that if Israel had their vote today, Trump would win in a landslide? His numbers over the weekend, it's like 54-30.
Because they understand. Well, if you had any question.
Or 56-30, something like that.
If you had any question, Soleimani.
Yeah.
You understand.
And you'll probably see more of it. You saw it yesterday in some of the protests yesterday. You saw the Hamas flags out there.
Yep.
I mean, these are Americans. These are Americans that believe this. And this filthy rot has found a home inside the Democratic Party. Jewish hatred,
and
anti-Semitism, the pro-terrorist mindset, pro-terrorist Jewish hatred is now solidified inside the Democratic Party. As we said last year after this happened and the response from Democrats, don't be surprised.
Right.
Identity politics. Judge people as by the groups that they're in.
Yep.
Let's lie about those groups. Let's promote Georgia election law, Jim Crow 2.0, Jim Crow on steroids, a lie, something that a leader of the KKK or the white Aryan nations would do is what Biden did in order to make people of one skin color dislike people of another skin color, because that's what hate group leaders do. They tell lies to create racial tension. That's what he did. So much that they moved the Major League All-Star game out of Atlanta.
Yeah, it's
based on a lie. based on
if you wrote a book and just in one sentence, each sentence was what the Democrats have done in recent years, that would have to be, first of all, couldn't be one book unless it were War and Peace. But think about that, writing down everything they have done. Instead of Drudge, the now anti-Trump, I don't know, he's always been pro-Hollywood guy. Imagine a website like that, but everything is just all the things they have done. All the things they have done. All the things they have done. With links to back up the claims. See, we don't have to lie about what they've done. We don't have to lie. I don't have to lie about where Kamala Harris stands. She says it herself.
Yeah.
They have to lie about Trump. They do have to go out of their way and make it up. The whole Charlottesville, they're still using that thing. That's been disproven time and time and time again, but they believe you're stupid. They believe you're stupid. And if you're believing it, that's on you. If you're believing their lies, that's on you. If you don't have the will, if you're too lazy to look for the truth, and you have to ask yourself, I've been saying this for a while now, you must ask yourself what you actually know about these claims about Donald Trump. You know, one of the things we pointed to, and you pointed this out, the email that came out about him calling for greater security on January 6th.
Yeah.
Then you couple that with the recording of Nancy Pelosi saying that there should have been armed guards at Capitol Hill on that day. She was angry that it didn't happen, which now the only conclusion I can come to is she's angry at herself for not making that happen. She was speaker at the time. So all of these things, what is it that you actually have against Donald Trump? What do you hear now? Now that everything has been disproven, you hear more and more, I just don't like him. I just don't like him. They just shut down. They can't tell you why they dislike him. And it's about, of course, we know with the left, like and dislike.
There's about 50 people I know on social media, people and acquaintances I've known, who were very vocal during Obama, when Obama got in. I remember, very vocal when Obama got in, second term got in, didn't like it at all when Trump got in. They just don't post anymore.
Yeah.
They post.
Yeah.
They don't post anything political anymore.
Right.
And my question is, what are they thinking?
Right.
That's one of the things that you just don't hear anything about. What is a Democrat thinking today?
Right.
What are the voters thinking? And when you hear the voters, you really don't. I saw one of the voters that were part of the Fox one, and it was basically the lies about Trump. The stuff she was saying, it's like, well, that's not true. But that's what she believed.
Right.
She was part of a focus group. I'm like, okay, she's buying into stuff that isn't true. And that's why they keep throwing it out, because they believe it's worked for them. But it only works for so long. And we'll see whether so long is this November.
Yeah. 4 weeks from tomorrow. What are you doing that day?
I got to work.
You remember in 2016? Forgive us, kids.
Yeah.
We do remember things. And we're going to go way back. We're going to get in the way back machine and go back 8 years. Remember that night? Remember they were practically throwing she wasn't. She was canceling her fireworks display over the weekend and just days ahead of the election. We remember that. But all day on that Tuesday, on Election Day, the liberal activists and media, they were practically having a parade already. It was a given. It was a given.
But remember, she canceled the fireworks.
That's what I just said. Yeah, she wasn't doing it, but the liberal media was. And remember how that changed that evening? Remember?
Yeah, I remember. What was it, about 2:40 our time? when it came down?
Yeah, a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, 2:40 a.m. our time when
And
it came down.
but between the time the polls closed and about 9 p.m. Central, so right in that prime time zone, the tone started changing because results were coming in. And the liberal media on these news desks, they were furious. They were absolutely angry. You know, a lot has been said, and there are some out there, there are a handful of people that are making predictions that Trump will win in a landslide. You and I don't make those predictions. I see the makings of him winning an election, and we've been saying this for a while. It's his to lose, but I think everything's priced in right now already on him. So the toxicity, any tweet or social media post that he puts out there, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, they're throwing some things out there, but it's really not going anywhere. And do I see the possibility of a landslide? Depends on how you define a landslide.
Well, as
I don't know that. I mean, he's not going to take California. He's not going to take New York. But if you're looking at the electoral count, I could see a clear margin. That's technically not the definition of a landslide.
But look, I look back. The people ask, "Well, you don't really predict." I go, "Well, I give you an indication." I mean, I think from everything I've seen so far, if it's true what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, Trump should win,
right?
Based on what we've seen,
right?
But I don't know because I went through early in my talk radio career, 5 years into it, I went through the midterm election of '94.
Yeah.
Nobody except Zogby saw it for Psaki beating Cuomo. Was it Cuomo? Running against, but Psaki winning the governorship in New York. Otherwise, nobody saw that move in Congress.
Right.
Nobody saw it coming.
Right.
No one.
Yeah.
No one. And after that day, I went, and especially with all the new variables, for example, in an election like this.
Right.
And after that, I said, okay, who really can call an election? Because really nobody got 1994, that massive shift in Republicans that people didn't see.
Right.
And then after that, 94 is when you started seeing, remember the angry white male? Remember that one? Boy, things haven't changed much, has it, for the Democratic Party? It's still, no. Here we are 30 years later, angry white male.
Right.
Well, it might be in this year, angry Hispanic and black males.
Could be. It could, but we looked at the demographic breakdown, and it could be that election cycle for sure.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, latest on Hurricane Milton. We should be getting an update here any moment now.
Yeah.
That we'll have for you. October 7th, will there be protests today? And Democrats against Democrats in the city of Chicago. I got to get this story because it's just like, what?
Yeah.
And more look at the change in strategy of the Harris campaign.
It also
why.
is strange.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.